All right, Bitcoin Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's take a look at Bitcoin and the good and the bad on the weekly. There's a little bit of bad, but we'll look at that. We're going to look at the monthly first, and then we'll just zoom in, okay? So 115, great. Better than lower, right? But let's look at the monthly first. So far, we're in indecision candle. I mean, perfect indecisiveness, right? It's not really bullish or bearish, and very typical for anytime you're seeing all-time highs, certainly late in the cycle, you're going to start getting some pushback either way. So that's what we're seeing. And if you go back and look, each other time, we've kind of seen new all-time highs and a indecisive candle. And again, we still have 4 days left in the month. So we could end up finishing a little higher, a little lower, but probably going to be a relative doji candle, right? As we've really seen over the past 4 months, but if we go back here, last time we kind of rose up here, this was a little bit more bearish, right? A little bit higher of a wick. But, we followed up with another kind of indecisiveness. And, going from, 49K to, 125% rally, $60,000 in 4 months. That's pretty aggressive, right? So we needed to chill back, right? We needed to kind of cool off before we reloaded to new all-time highs, which we're at now. But, I mean, just look with your eyes here and see this is, even though we went 67%, another 50K, it took 6 months and it's much less aggressive, right? So that we are not by no means overextended, right? Not like we were here or Jesus back in 2020, 2021. We wish we had those vibes back, right? Seeing the volatility there. Look at that one. But you have to have the context of where we just came from, right? That was an absolute parabolic rally. Look how many closes above the monthly Bollinger Band we got. I mean, absolutely insane. Even here, 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 before even getting kind of a breath. We haven't even closed a candle outside the upper Bollinger Band in look a year. We have by no means extended or need to cool off, right? If anything, it's the opposite. Okay, so we have that to go on. This doesn't look like a top formation to me. Certainly that would be a bigger warning back in April of 2021, but that could have easily just continued, right? Especially with the power that was behind it. So you don't really want to fade that. Obviously, hindsight's always easy to see. If we look at this one, again, just a doji candle, like nothing really to take. There's no way anyone could tell from those two candles or even this that we couldn't have just continued right the hell on. Right? So not really huge any kind of warnings here. But your major warnings were, in hindsight, obviously easy, but you started closing under the EMA 8 on the monthly. Right there. This was scary time. But we came back up again. And then look what we did the very next move down under the EMA 8. We haven't done that the entire cycle. So where do you suspect we might want to get sketchy? We might want to have, some side eye open there. Correct. When you see the blue line under the red, doesn't mean it has to be over. We could do this again, although I still doubt it. But until that happens, we simply cannot discount the probability and possibility of higher for longer. Okay? Not overextended. Very methodical climb up. Hold at the EMA 8 each and every time, even this month. Still good. Until we see a blue line, the price closing under the EMA 8, and as of this month, it's 106, right on it, right? So in 4 days, could we go down to 106? Of course. Are we likely to? Who knows, right? I doubt it. I think that's been a pretty good recovery over last week. So I would guess we're probably going to close around here within a few percent higher or lower, right? It doesn't really matter. I think it's probably going to be a doji, which go back really past 4 months. This is going to be our fifth of pretty much just relative indecision. Okay. Let's go look at the weekly, and then we can talk about what all this means. So first and foremost, let's note maybe the tightest weekly Bollinger Bands we've seen in any of the prior consolidations. Maybe right there. But I would guess we're at the tightest pinch out of either of the previous three consolidations. 1, 2, 3, right? Those are our three consolidated phases that we've had in this cycle. The narrowest as of right now, okay? So likely still a bigger move to come. And why we would think higher? Again, because we've done really nothing. We're just kind of rounding out the consolidated phase without any overextension by any means, by any excitement, really by any means. Like the least exciting anyone in history has been at a Bitcoin all-time high, 125K and crickets on social media, right? We should still have plenty of upside. Now maybe this cycle just continues to put in its own characteristics as it has so far, right? Altcoins just kind of being lackluster. Hopefully that still turns around. But not necessarily for that aspect, but I'm talking about for timing. Maybe it does last longer. And just because of, we may be able to back that up in hindsight and look back and like, yeah, we just never didn't do anything crazy like we did in prior cycles. And that's typical, right? With the more money, things become less volatile. Some people get that backwards, right? Oh, there's $10 trillion here now. We should be going crazy. No, the more money that's here, the flatter things get. So maybe we're just seeing that. Maybe it'll be a longer cycle, but maybe still underwhelming, right? I don't know. But I see no evidence of, or really even signs of catastrophe looming or any kind of greed, right? Typically, you're going to, even though we're in fear now, we're going to have to see a period of greed, or at least a flash of extreme greed, before we would get too concerned. I mean, look at these rallies. Not saying we have to do that aggressive or last that long, but we've got to see something. This is, we've just been chopping for the past 5 to 6 months, really, even longer. You could even argue a year of chop, really. From, a year ago's highs, let's go to last November, right? The highs of almost a year ago were within 20%, right? We've literally done basically nothing. You could argue chop within 20% in a year, right? Not too much. And there's stocks that outperform that, right? That's not crypto. And it sure is not the making of a top. So I still think higher for longer. The timing has been like ridiculous on this cycle, but we're, again, like I always say, like we're okay with it as long as we're wrong in profit, right? As long as you're going to still do it, we can wait a little bit longer, right? Okay, so now let's look at, let me look at the good and the bad here in kind of one fell swoop. So the good is we're back above all moving averages, right? I think someone pointed that out in the chat. Great, excellent. Yes, we do want that. We're back above all moving averages. Very bullish. The non-bullish thing, and that's still slightly making me wince a little bit, is what? Have you looked at it? Look at the last 2 weekly candles specifically. One, we're still inside the shadow of the last week candle. So now we have a 2x inside, right? You have this major one, a smaller one, and yet another smaller one. Our wick stayed inside. So this isn't the move yet. This is just the spring still contracting and loading. Okay, that's one. Two, And the biggest issue I have is it's not a bullish engulfing candle. So that also goes with the inside candle, right? But why is that important? Well, let's look at the last time. Look at those two candles, right? Where we reversed. The low was in versus where the low was not in yet. Big drop down, move up, still hesitated. I would argue we're still in the hesitation phase, so we're not out of it. Even though we're above all moving averages and we weren't here or in these other wounds, these which we'll look at in a second, that's still my... I'm not convinced yet that we're seeing this is actually a bullish candle. I think it's more or less still just in the wheelhouse of, playing around in the sandbox here. I don't think this is anything. Just like that wasn't really anything either. All right, we're still digesting this wacky move that happened a couple weeks ago. If I had to guess, if I'm guessing, that I don't think this is the move yet. Although I do love that we are above all moving averages. So if you've got to start off with it, right? That's a good place to start. Get back above all moving averages. So where I would start to get more excited is if this week we can close above 117 or ideally above these guys. Then we'd be looking at like the second highest candle close of all time, right? And then that's where the context start to get more exciting. But as of now, I think it's a little too early. Let's see how the week starts. I would like to get up here. Anything, even if we close a 2K candle and we close right up here, I think that's a pretty big win. Anything above 117. Otherwise, I'm still expecting a potential retrace down here, just like we saw down here. Again, look at this is what I wanted to see. Now, if this candle just would have closed another 1,000 higher, that would have been a lot more significant. Even that $1,000 higher, because it would have taken out this. It would have negated the 2x inside. It'll be over, right? This could be the start of a bigger move, and it still could be. We still could close back at all-time highs this week, maybe, right? For sure. It's not a tall ask. 7%. Bitcoin's obviously capable of doing that anytime at once. So we have a long week ahead, but I'm still skeptical, right? Because of that. Now look at the last time when the bottom is in, right? We're just going to look at each of the previous 3 times. So when the bottom is in, bullish engulfing candle after putting in a fresh low. Okay, that was it. Okay, the time before that, not a bullish engulfing, right? It was just a dead bounce, a lower high ultimately, before coming back down again to the 50, before putting in our final low, bullish engulfing candle, right? And it led to a bigger move. Now, the thing we have on our side, like the asterisk, is we got back above all moving averages. So that is a big bullish move. Unlike these, we were still fighting kind of on defense, even though the candle reversals were more of a signal. I do like that we're back above all moving averages. So we could very well maybe be the anomaly this time, but this is why I'm still a little skeptical. We didn't get this, right? We didn't get this. And we haven't tested the 50 week yet. Not that we have to, but it's still in the back of my mind here, right? Even here, bullish engulfing. That was the low before continuing on, right? That was really the start of the rally. Each of the previous 3 times of consolidation, we've seen that. When the real rally was here. When there was a dead rally, not really real yet, and we're still going back down, right? Red candle, small green, we got back up here, but still, like, it's those two. It's how did you start the rally? That's not a good start to the rally. Then it wasn't the real rally. That's a better start. That's a better start. Look, we had 2 of them. Small red, bigger green. Small red, bigger green. Small red, bigger green. Doesn't have to happen like that, but that's kind of where I'd like to have been there. And then also we have these 2x inside weekly bars now. This one was inside of that whole shadow, right? Hopefully you've seen these videos before where I've talked about these shadows. right? The shadow is the high wick and the low wick, right? Now we have this candle. There's that shadow, right? High wick to low wick. This candle is now inside of that shadow. When that happens, this is not, you shouldn't really look at this as a move, but more or less the move is loading, right? You can see the levels getting tighter and tighter. Usually you'll have 2 to 3 of those before a bigger move is revealed. So that would be this week or next. Now, if it's this week, okay, it would still take us through the end of October, right? November 1st is Saturday, right? I think that's right. Right, Halloween Friday, that's accurate. And so we will start next week at the weekly close, November 3rd. Could start off November with a bang, one way or another. We hope to the high side. But again, like, we'll have to watch this week. Watch for one of these wicks to be broken. That would be a good sign if we can get any kind of price action up in this area. 117 would take out the high of, you know, the week ago, the previous 2 weeks, really. So it's really just 116, which is why I just would have liked a little bit more there. And just by looking at the candlesticks, we would have been able to interpret a lot more. But hopefully you can see that. And this is why I'm not convinced just yet that this is real, although we'd like it to be. But I'm still not going to be surprised if we do one of these numbers first and then go to highs, right? We could do this. And we could still, remember we looked at last week, the bars pattern of this, we could still go down to 100K and end up finishing this year over at 140, almost to 150 by just doing this same pattern here. If we were right in this position, like imagine this week is right here in this candle, right? Can't draw. And then we go down for 2 weeks or 3, and then we start the move, right? This would be this. So please do not get scared if we do this. Just hold on and take up arts and crafts for a couple weeks, then come on back, right? We've done this every time, so why would we think, again, just like the cycles, we've peaked every time on post-halving year in Q4. Until it changes, we have to assume the same. Just like this. Every time we've tested the 50 EMA, 50-week EMA, before going to new all-time highs. Why would we expect different? Until it happens, that's what I would expect. Or, like, we could start to fade that, I think, if we start to get up here. Get above 120 again, I think we can probably X that. Until we're really putting in, like, maybe second all-time highs closes. Like, if it closed north of here, then I'd say we can maybe avoid it. And why else do I think we could possibly avoid it? Well, again, like we started out in the monthly, we didn't do this parabolic move up. This is much more kind of just what the hell, right? Maybe we don't have to go down if we are like, what the hell, right? This has been pretty damn boring. So maybe we don't have to do that, because the other previous 2-3 times we've come from hell yeah, right? We were excited here. We were excited here. I don't think anybody really, everybody was just kind of skeptical here. And we've still been skeptical for really a majority of this move, have we not? At least that's my vibes. So if there's ever a reason other than just looking at the charts, it's the market sentiment in my book. And just the fact that we're still kind of consolidating at 12 months ago's highs. Now this lows, that's bullish. I would could almost argue this whole thing, right? It's just kind of loading for the finale, perhaps. That would still be worth it, right? As long as we still have it coming. And there's still plenty of reasoning to think that we have plenty higher highs coming. All right, so if we go down, whatever, it's nothing abnormal. If we go higher, that's the anomaly, right? But again, until we're like real 117, great. But look at all those closes. Like, we'd love to get above that little cluster there and get into the rare air that is north of 120. All right, so we'll see how the week goes. Tight Bollinger Bands. Exciting times. Maybe for the Bulls and the Bears. A lot of volatility should be expected here over the next couple of weeks. Maybe not this week. Maybe not even the first week of November. But sometime between now and Thanksgiving, you would think we're gonna either be at new all-time highs or have tested the 50-week. I would highly anticipate that in the next 4 weeks, in the next month, certainly by December 1st, I think we will be north of 125 or at least have already tested the 50. And maybe we're right back here December 1st. Maybe we haven't changed, but I think we'll either be closing above here or be in the, you know, right in the thick of the final rally, right? I'm not saying that we have to be at much higher prices, but I think we'll either just kind of start it here now over the next couple of weeks, or we could just, we could just go flat and then start it. But I would predict by December 1st, we are going to see either the final shakeout or just new all-time highs, right? And then not looking back. So not much longer, right? We've waited all this time, only up 20% from a year ago, which is crazy to think about, really. And that's that on the weekly, okay? Okay, let's zoom in. We'll go to the daily. We got to focus on each day this week. We've had a nice rally since, late last week, right? That's some cluster green. Back above all moving averages, great. We're close to being able to negate the bear flag, but we're not quite there yet. We got to just kind of close above 115 on the daily. Right, close above that. That close right there is 115.2. But as of right now, we're still kind of in it. I know this is kind of, we're very close to invalidating it, so we'd like to do that. But as of right now, I'm still a little skeptical here. This is still not, I don't like that higher low. 2 higher lows, 2 higher highs. That's pretty typical flag formation after this move down. So we'll watch again. We'll confirm the bear flag at 107. If we take that out, go back under the 200 here, right? This would all but confirm we're going to test that 50 week if we come back down here this week, or we close above here and it's gone, right? Great. That's really the 2 pivots we're watching this week. We don't have to make it much more complicated than that. Close above 115.2 or close below 107.5. Right? Those are the 2 lines. Perfectly parallel lines. And until then, we could do that. But then I would argue this is bullish as well. Why? Because it would still negate that damn flag. Right? If we just start to consolidate, the flag is gone, right? And then we might have the lows already in. And if you couldn't take out 100K with that, I have a hard time buying that you're going to. Bollinger Band's pinching up here. This is what I'd like to see. Just do that. Consolidate for another week or so. Start out November with a pretty big bang. Get back to new all-time highs the second week going into Thanksgiving. That could definitely be some fuel to the fire around the Thanksgiving table talks. New all-time highs. 125 or so by Thanksgiving. That would be real. I think that would be real bullish. That's like exactly what happened in 2017. I don't know, maybe you're around by then, or if not, like that was the talk. 2017. That's why we had an epic rally. You go back and look at 2017. I remember vividly. That's when it was stupid back then. 2017. Let's go look at it. So Thanksgiving, like right here, right? This is like Thanksgiving week starting. And, you know, that like everyone talking around the Thanksgiving tables, social media going crazy. And it's like every time you check your phone, you're up, you're up, you're up, you're up. It was this kind of vibes. So that started the second week of November. Maybe we're going to rhyme with that. After back testing the weekly EMA8, let's see how the monthly did back then. Well, we don't have a whole lot of data. We'd have to go back on the BLX. You can go back on the BLX and study the history like that. But just telling you the vibes, maybe if we are at near all-time highs for the Thanksgiving week, that could add fuel to the holiday spectacular. Maybe we get the 2017 vibes back where we just, go off in an epic finale. It's still there. It's still possible. And just because we've been pretty dull for really a year, certainly 5-6 months, then I still think that's relatively easy to do. Not that we're going to again. Right? Who knows? Right? This cycle's been kind of weird, the weirdest cycle in crypto history. The least volatile, sure. So we'll see how the week goes on. Right? We have our checkpoints for the daily at 107 to the low, 116, 115, 2. Just a daily close. It wouldn't take too much. All right. I wouldn't expect much out of alts until Bitcoin decides what it's going to do. So until Bitcoin's way up here, or until Bitcoin kind of retests here. All right. Any other questions? Let me know.